Hello, everyone on YouTube. How are we doing today? My name is Jake, and I'm once again joined by my friend Jordan. Jordan, how you doing?
Excellent.
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 You know,
It's
Jordan,
championship week.
it's so early in the morning. I
It is
didn't
pretty
even
early.
I didn't even introduce the name of the podcast just now.
Oh man.
Who are we,
You
Jordan?
We're the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast.
Oh man, it is. You probably have noticed it is 8 in the morning, or at least here in the Midwest. It's an early morning. Just times didn't line up this week, but we got it in.
It's holiday week. It's a holiday
Yeah.
week, but we're committed to making it happen.
Oh my gosh, it was. How was your holiday, Jordan?
It was great. It was great. Stayed local. Very, very enjoyable. How was yours?
Oh, uneventful. Family coming in from out of town.
Oh, but you
just-
didn't have to travel.
But we didn't have to travel. Maybe next
That's
year.
super
We'll see.
nice.
Jordan, do you want to go ahead and hit it on the podcast side of things?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Welcome back to Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast. We're here to help you take the next step in your fantasy journey. My name is Jake, and I'm joined by my friend Jordan. Jordan, how you doing?
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Just,
I love to
just
hear it.
delightful. It's
It's
a
a
Saturday
holiday.
morning. It's a Saturday morning. It's a holiday. I've actually had off work this week, which
Oh
I
my
very
gosh.
much.
I only worked yesterday, and I work in childcare, and there were no kids there. It was glorious. Just beautiful.
And now we get another long weekend.
I know. And then it's back
I
to the
love it.
grind. Then it's
Yeah.
back, and then there's nothing until like Martin Luther King Day
2024.
or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I hope everyone had a great holiday
Yes.
and holiday weekend and week that's listening.
Great. We're live right now on YouTube, youtube.com/Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast. Typically live on Wednesdays or Thursdays. I think we're going to aim for Wednesdays during the off season. But like I mentioned, it was a holiday weekend. We were busy. Didn't know if we were going to get an episode in. It was a whole thing, but we made it work. We found a time. Most people are probably sleeping right now. So if you're listening, go ahead and watch the YouTube video later. Don't worry about it. It's championship week. Can you believe it has been 17 weeks of start-sit questions, and it has been. I mean, each season. We start in March, so it's been 9 months of this season, and then we're gonna do it all over again.
And I love it.
And
I
I
love every
love it.
second of it. I love every second of it. But I hope everyone here is that's listening is in their championship this week.
I was gonna ask
Or at
Jordan,
least some.
did you make some championships this year?
No, I had some epic collapses in the semifinals.
Tell us about it.
Jake. Some epic collapses. Yeah, I started Gardner Minshew over Joe Flacco, which was just
There's
so
a sentence you didn't expect to say.
That's so dumb. Yeah. And it was sometimes just a fluke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the other team, I did the math because I was like, did I do my start sits wrong?
Yeah.
No. The best I possibly could have done just wasn't going to beat the guy that I was going up against.
That's all you can do.
Yeah. And then Jake, you and I.
Oh
played
yeah,
each other.
yep. In the
And
Next Step
that one-
Patreon League, which if you want to
Yeah,
be a
that
Patreon
one-
member, links
That
in
one
bio.
you also handled me
Yes,
pretty
yes, I
easily
really just
with.
destroyed.
So I'm going for third place.
Oh,
No.
neat! That gets
Yeah,
you
going
nothing
for
in our
third
league.
place. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
congratulations on making a championship
Thank
in
you,
the Next Step League.
thank you. We hopefully gonna bring that down. Going up against Patreon member Joey, and I'm already down. He had David Njoku, so we'll see what happens. Went
Yeah.
nuts.
He was talking a
on-
lot of trash. He was talking a
Yes,
lot of
he
trash.
was.
So
Anyways, so we're gonna do it one more time, and then kind of just a preview for the next weeks here. We'll probably do 3 or 4 more episodes for the season before we take our break, right? So we did last year. Does that sound right?
Yep. And I gotta say, we're coming. I'm just looking. We talked like playoffs and things like
Yeah.
that. We'll talk a little bit of week 18 next week. I know some leagues do a week
Yeah.
18, so that one might be a little bit light. But oh boy, everything.
Sorry about
good?
that. Just dropping my
Yep.
wedding ring.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit week 18 stuff. Then we'll get into playoffs and things. It'll just be a little more football focused then because
Yep.
we love football. And then just you wait for end of season awards and the book it episode.
Yeah. And then we'll go ahead and probably take the month of February off.
Yep.
And then we'll be back with that 2024 free agent preview. So
Ooh,
then we'll
I
start
love
it
it.
all over again. There's some, and what's
I love
fun,
it.
and I was cheating, Jordan. There's
Oh,
some
boy.
good, if you remember this past year, and anyone who's been listening for the whole year, the past free agency, when it came to skill positions, fantasy relevant, was kind of a letdown, right? This year, we
Miles
got some good
Sanders.
ones. We got some good ones this year. Some T. Higgins, some Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, who we're going to talk about.
I was just about to say we should start with that
so
one.
Jordan, why don't you hit us with the news?
All right. I think top story is that Tyrod Taylor is going to start for the Giants.
Ty God. I love that we were able to talk about him all year. The Tommy DeVito train derailed. Great, because he's the worst quarterback on that roster. Easily.
Agreed.
I'm
followed by Daniel Jones.
Thank you.
Tyrod Taylor. Yeah.
Love me some Tyrod Taylor. In a pinch, if you got to start him, he rushes. He offers rushing upside.
I was playing Madden with my brother. This is a total tangent here.
Okay.
But I was playing Madden with my brother, and we did random teams, and I was the Giants. And the first half, I had Daniel Jones. I scored 0 points. 0. And then I was like, forget it. I'm putting Ty God in.
Yeah,
and my
you
brother
are.
It's like, what? And I was like, no. Trust me. Trust me. And I ended up scoring like 4 unanswered touchdowns. I still lost because I can't remember who it was, but I still lost. But it was way more impressive what he was showing. And Tyrod Taylor only missed 1 throw.
My man. Ty God killing it in Madden, killing it in real life.
In real life. All right, sorry. Actually, the biggest story, I would say, is that Russ announced he's benched for Jarrett Stidham going into Week 17. And sources say he'll be cut in March.
If you're listening on the podcast side of stuff, I am shaking my head with disgust. Disgust. This is just terrible. They are doing him so dirty right now. Unprofessional. 29 touchdowns versus 8 picks. He's doing great. They're just not, and they're winning. I mean, they've won more games than they won last year already. They're doing well. No.
I think it's about money. I think it's about money.
That's the thing, though. First of all, Jarrett Stidham, if he ends up on your team, if he's your backup quarterback, oh, God, you're screwed. Happened last year with the Raiders, Derek Carr. They did him dirty, and now they're doing it again. They came to him, Russell Wilson, after the week 7 bye. It doesn't matter. Right after they beat the Chiefs, and they were like, hey, Russ, listen, we get that you've been cooking, but we need you to change your contract, because if you get hurt, like majorly hurt, and you can't pass a physical come March, we're going to have to pay you $35 million. This is a contract that they signed off on. And they said, if you don't change it, we're going to bench you. And Russ was like, nah, man, I ain't doing that, which he shouldn't. And
that money's just coming to him no matter what,
yes.
whether he plays or not. Yeah, he could have the best job in the NFL, which is no job.
And then they're like, then we're going to have to bench you. And then he just started winning, right? You know, we've seen it. The Broncos have had a pretty good second half of the season. And then now that they lost a game or two, they're going to bench him and put Jarrett Stidham in.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's so unprofessional. That's what it is. I don't feel bad for him because it's like you're still making $30 million. But, like, come on. Oh, my Atlanta. My kid is screaming. Did you hear that?
Yeah,
He's watching the Minions movie. And you know how they are all loud and eccentric? He likes to copy them. Anyways, Minions movie, go watch it.
I think he's listening to the podcast, and he's about to agree with my take, which is, of course he got benched. Of course he got benched.
Of course he did.
I believe, I'm just looking back. October 11th, 2023, I booked it.
Did you?
I booked it. Russ will get benched.
This is not fair. I'm not accepting this book it. Nope.
I said it.
Let me hear you. Let me hear it say something. I do not accept it because we all know what you meant. You said he was going to get benched, but you meant because of his poor play. And he's not benched because of his poor play. He's benched because of the money.
It's everything. It's a terrible contract. He's not winning right now.
I do not accept that.
He's not winning right now.
Oh my God, he lost a game. He lost the last 2 weeks.
Yes, a 2-game skid. The contract is not good. They're likely going to miss the playoffs. And they don't want to play him next year. They don't want him on the team next year.
This is not fair.
I argued that they were. I was like, they
don't look at me and tell me right now that you meant it was going to be financially. You said you thought he was going to be bad, and then that's why he wouldn't play. And he hasn't been bad.
It's both. He's only won 1 game in the last 4 weeks.
Okay, fine.
He's basically taken him out of playoff contention.
Okay,
and he lost
has
to
not.
The Patriots. The Patriots.
Okay.
Jake.
I really wish we had Adam here right now
No. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying the Patriots. You can't lose to the Patriots and then be like, I'm owed like $40 million, and I'm going to be a dead cap hit, and I'm also not going to be like helpful to the team and like change around my contract.
Helpful
Which
to the team.
I think we can all agree. Get your money.
Oh my
Like, don't
God.
change your contract. Don't change.
This
your
is a bad take.
Yo, it's the correct take.
It's not.
I was right.
They are
What do you
doing
mean a
him
bad
dirty
take?
right now.
What do you mean? He has been terrible. 2 years he's been terrible.
He has not been terrible. He's been a lot better than he was last year.
But he's not winning games. He's not winning games.
Fair
They're
enough.
winning in spite of him. They're winning in spite of him, not because of him.
You cannot say 29 touchdowns versus 8 picks and say it's in spite of him.
It's boring. He's boring. Nothing exciting happens. Are you excited to watch a Broncos game? No.
Adam is.
Yeah, barely. I'm sure barely.
All right, make the pick. Where's he playing next year? Because he will start next year.
Oh.
Off the top of your head, go.
Probably New England.
New England. That's not a bad. I was going to guess Atlanta. Because I don't think it's New England.
That's actually more realistic.
I don't think it's New England because they'll get a quarterback and they'll start him straight out. It's one of those teams that. It's one of those teams that is going to have a later like a mid-round pick, like Atlanta, who might squeak into a playoff spot, or you're picking in 17 and you end up taking Bo Nix, or something like that, or a guy you don't want to start right immediately.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I gotta close this blind.
That's fine. So yeah, I think he starts next year for sure. And honestly, I wouldn't write him off yet. We've seen veterans that go other places and it doesn't really work out. I think that this has just been such a colossal fail in Denver that maybe a change of scenery would be helpful. And if he goes
how can you say it's been such a colossal failure and then criticize me for a bad take? It has been a failure. Get him gone.
It is a terrible franchise. That's what I think.
Well, okay, I disagree with that. They've
Okay.
recently won Super Bowls.
Sean Payton comes in and all of a sudden we're treating our players terribly. Just saying.
Yeah, but it's not Sean Payton's fault. I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. It's the previous management who gave him this contract. They gave him this contract, and
anyone would have paid him that contract, though. That's the thing.
I disagree. I do not think that this level of guaranteed money anyone would have paid.
Is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer?
He's got to tighten it up.
He's got to tighten
somewhere
it
else.
up.
He's got to tighten it up. Otherwise, the answer is no.
Before the season, I would have said yes. But
at the end of last season, I would have been hesitant.
All right.
I would have said he's really got to do it.
All right, Jordan, we got to keep going. We're going to spend half this podcast talking about Russ.
Okay. Just some other, I think, big news here. C.J. Stroud out of concussion protocol, major for the championship week.
Huge. Helps him. Obviously, him helps
and everyone else.
Helps Nico Collins, who's been a star this year.
Yep.
So
Dalton Schultz is back this week, so I like that too. Vikings are going to start Jaron Hall versus the Packers. Didn't even know
that is his second start of the year, if you recall. He started that 1 week and then he tried to run the ball in the end zone and got a concussion, and then that's when Josh Dobbs took over.
Yep. So just some lovely stuff there going against my Packers this week. And then Jair Alexander got a suspension. This isn't really fantasy relevant, but Jake, what are your thoughts on that? So I guess for people listening in, Jair Alexander crashes the coin toss, pretends to be a captain, calls the coin toss, wins it in the game against Carolina. And then he says, we want to defend, which is actually not something you're supposed to say. You would defer the choice to the second half. And so there was like all kinds of confusion. Technically, the Packers should have played defense at the start of both halves.
But the ref was like, do you mean defer? Because like everyone knew what he meant. He's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then the interview afterwards, he was just like totally unapologetic about it. He was like, so suspended for a game. Jake, thoughts going against Justin Jefferson?
See, that's why it's fantasy relevant. That's why it's fantasy relevant.
Yeah.
I think Justin Jefferson's going to do quite well this week. I think it's just I don't want to talk too much about defense, but as Packer fans, I was just talking to a buddy of mine about this, and I am of the opinion, like, there's this idea, at least around here, that Jair Alexander's like a top 5 corner in the NFL. And I don't believe that.
He's paid like one.
He's paid like one. But I don't believe he is. And that is mainly, as we watch Packer games every week. there are games when he locks up Justin Jefferson and he's got that swagger, and he's just killing it. And then there are games when just some Zay Flowers just destroys him or something like that.
Torches him, yeah.
Marvin Jones just making him look. So I think it's a good suspension. I do. I mean, I think it's you can't. Matt LaFleur already has this this perception that he let Aaron Rodgers walk all over him, right? So I think he's not gonna let Jair do that.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that take.
I
was gonna say why it's fine. It's no consequence happens
because you
it's
can't.
Dumb. It's silly, but you need him. You're trying to make a playoff push. But I like what you said that he's trying to push against the.
I also wonder if it's
perception.
I also wonder if it's a bit has to do with the fact that everyone in Wisconsin hates Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And maybe he's lost the defensive coordinator has lost the locker room as well, so they just feel like they can do whatever they want, and you can't do that. You got to take over.
Yeah.
Joey in the chat says, "Good morning, man. Good to see you. Can't wait for you to lose in the Dynasty League this week." Anyway, what else you got?
All right, let me hit you. I'm just going to kind of rapid fire some of these because there's lots of injuries we got to just be aware of. Hollywood Brown to IR with a heel injury. Ramondre Stevenson to IR to end the season. TJ Hawkinson, season-ending ACL, MCL injury.
That one's one to watch.
That's the one that matters, I think, for teams that are likely vying for a championship. Hawkinson is an excellent tight end.
And looking forward, I mean, you tear your ACL in week 17, that's a problem. That's a problem for starting next year. And so, I mean, depending on how that goes, we could see Hawkinson on the PUP list. I mean,
and that could be really significant with no Kirk. That's a new quarterback. I mean, we're getting into nuance there, but new quarterback without time with TJ Hawkinson at the offseason. Anyway.
We'll definitely talk about that more, but I mean, that's brutal.
All right, here we got a bunch of outs.
Go for it.
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Jalen Waddle ruled out with an ankle injury. Cortland Sutton ruled out with a concussion. Juju is out versus the Bills. Joshua Palmer is out. So is Keenan Allen versus Denver for the Chargers. Darnell Mooney out with a concussion. Kadarius Toney out with a hip. Zach Moss out with a forearm. Trevor Lawrence not going to play, ruled out with a shoulder sprain versus the Panthers. Some of those maybe not starting, Juju, things like that. But some of those guys like Keenan Allen, Jalen Waddle, Cortland Sutton, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Moss, who's been kind of a weekly start. Those are some major names that are not playing.
Yeah, that sucks. I mean, that's not what you want. CJ Beathard, don't want to start him. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just trying to think of so now we're in deeper leagues, right? So it's a Greg Dortchich could be
he might be a good start.
I started him last week against you, Jordan, in the Dynasty League, and he scored a touchdown. And I was like, let's go.
Now he's got Jarrett the Jet thrown to him.
Yep. Quentin Johnston is the de facto number one there with Easton Stick throwing the ball.
Because no Mike Williams, he's out.
So I mean, it's okay. Devontae Parker's seen a lot of targets the last 2 weeks, along with Demario Douglas. So I mean, we're talking pretty deep leagues here, but
some flex. I mean, you might have to dig deep for a flex play this week with all the injuries and stuff, and so some of these guys might be the right choice for you. We'll get into some of that start-sit stuff here shortly. A couple of doubtfuls. Josh Jacobs doubtful, so keep an eye on that. If he doesn't play against the Colts, it would be Zamir White, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Christian Watson also doubtful, so likely not going to play, so plan accordingly. And then a lot of guys that we just got to keep an eye on. They're questionable. They haven't practiced. They're will they, won't they kind of thing. Isaiah Pacheco's in concussion protocol. Ken Walker has a shoulder injury. Jordan Addison is still week to week. Alvin Kamara is sick, so might not play. Dontavian Wicks has a chest and ankle injury. Jamar Chase with a shoulder. We don't know who's going to be starting quarterback for the Commanders. Jacoby Brissett has a hamstring. We could get Sam Howell. Mason Rudolph. And then there's some weird stuff. Mason Rudolph, they said is the starter, but Kenny Pickett is listed as questionable. So not sure what's going on there. Don't know if it matters. And then Brock Purdy is going to play. Ready to play week 17, even after a terrible night that he got rocked and they pulled him. So should bounce back if he plays against the Commanders.
Against the Commanders?
Yep.
Which goes right nicely into what Joey said in the chat here, live on YouTube at youtube.com/NextStepFantasyFootball Podcast. All Washington Commanders skill players will be garbage time champions this week.
Ooh, that's an interesting take. I like it.
I don't hate it. You're probably not wrong. They're going to get behind, and The problem is it's like I don't want to start Sam Howell. Like, I guess I could see Howell if you're in a one quarterback league and you have Trevor Lawrence, maybe he's out. You're starting Howell. I think Howell could be all right.
But we don't even know if Sam Howell's going to start. Jacoby
right.
Brissett is the starter, but has a hamstring. He's questionable. So keep an eye. You got to keep an eye on that one if you're thinking you might start Sam Howell.
We'll definitely post the inactives here coming.
Yeah. So some
on
dicey
the
stuff
page,
anyway.
On the Facebook
page. Lots to unpack there. The moral of the story: make sure you are tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, you are looking at your teams and making sure you're adjusting them accordingly.
Yes. Injuries have been bonkers this year, man.
I think,
I feel like we say that every year, but this is pretty crazy. I saw a stat going into last week. There have been 59 starting quarterbacks this year, and we're gonna get a few new ones. We could get Jacoby Brissett, and did Beathard ever start a game? But we're gonna hit 60. So just crazy. Oh, and Stidham too. Oh my gosh.
Stidham, yeah. But right. I mean, compared to last week, I have 8 things to say last week. This is a significant championship week amount of injuries.
I agree.
To navigate. Anyway, all right. Sorry, Jake.
All right, starting us off, we got some start sits going into our championship week. These are the most important ones. So, Don, Patreon member Don, friend of the podcast, was on an episode a few weeks ago. If you're curious to see what that looked like, go back and watch it. He's wondering if we should start Patrick Mahomes or Stafford.
Oh, no. This is the same thing that got me into trouble last week. Because I said, or 2 weeks ago, because I said it's got to be Pat Mahomes. You can't not start him. But Matt Stafford's been on a tear. Playing out of his mind.
Yeah, I'm starting Stafford.
Go big. I'm starting Stafford too.
Yeah. It's time to let it go. It doesn't matter when you took Mahomes. It just doesn't matter. I think we talked about this going in the offseason, how we were not proponents of taking quarterbacks early, and I think that's really showed its head this year.
That's so
going
true.
into next
so
year,
true.
I think that if you're not taking a running quarterback, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen, a Jalen Hurts, then you have to wait. You need to wait until much later in the draft. Spoiler alert, I will have Patrick Mahomes at number 4. So,
for next year.
Going into next year. But Stafford's been crazy. I think, there's a team you do not want to face if they make the playoffs. It's the big thing here for me is, he's got Cooper Kupp, Puka, and he's connecting very well in them. I think with the Chiefs, listen, I don't think Travis Kelce is bad or anything like that, but I think we talked about this, Father Time is undefeated. He is slowed down a little. And people who don't know what they're talking about will blame Taylor Swift, which is just not true. But, the offense just isn't humming. Honestly, Pacheco is a big start for me. I like him when he's healthy. But after that, I could totally see you not starting Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but because this is so different from the last probably 4 years, is teams in the championship probably don't have Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes on the team. Like they did the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So that matters. And Matt Stafford has not thrown an interception since week 12 when he threw 4 touchdowns that game. He has had 5 games in a row that he is a top flight quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Patrick Mahomes is just throwing pick sixes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're asking who's the better one, we want Mahomes in the playoffs. Yeah. But for this week, yes, give us Matthew Stafford.
Against the Giants. Love that.
Yeah,
Come
love
on.
that.
Yeah.
Pivoting to someone who is on a lot of championship teams right now. Graphic came out from ESPN that kind of broke it down. CMC's on 54% of teams that are in the championship. 22% have Trey McBride going up against the Eagles, or would you rather have him or Sam Laporta versus Dallas?
Trey McBride versus the Eagles.
Yes. Again, just because we're at the end of the season, and I keep kind of talking about next season, we're getting there, right? Trey McBride, top 3 in mine right now. I love him.
Well, Sam Laporta is the top in your top 3.
Well, we'll talk. But I'm going Trey McBride. especially with no Hollywood Brown, he's just eating targets. He has been a crazy good value guy who's not even on teams for the first 6 weeks of the season. Sam Laporta started off hot, and he's still doing well. I mean, for a rookie tight end, we typically don't see this from rookie tight ends. But going up against the Philadelphia defense that seems to have holes in it recently, versus like Laporta and Dallas, which Dallas is a good defense. So, give me McBride, especially in full point PPR.
Totally. I mean, I'm looking at some of these target volumes since week 10. 9 targets, 7, 9, 9, 11, 8. So even if he, like last week was a down week for Trey McBride, he still had 8 targets, 6 receptions. Like
full point PPR, you got to go McBride. Like he's eating right now.
Yep.
Start 2, we got Ty Chandler, James Cook, and James Conner. For me, that's the Jameses. Give me the Jameses.
Agreed.
I think that we could get a healthy share of James Conner this week as well, with no Hollywood Brown as well.
Yep.
And I think that's a good example. Don't overthink it. I mean, those are the 2 best players of those 3. And Alexander Madison is back this week. Also a colossal failure this year, Alexander Madison.
Yeah.
But, just start the better guys. All right, let's sit 1, okay? You got Zeke, running back 1. You got Zamir White, running back 1. And Travis Etienne, running back 1. Sit 1.
Ooh. Zamir, Zeke, Etienne. I like Etienne because it's against the Panthers with a backup QB. I think he gets a lot of carries. Zeke has no Ramondre. I'm probably sitting Zamir White for right now because Josh Jacobs could still play.
He's doubtful.
But if
he's not playing.
He's not playing.
Yeah, he won't.
Then I'm probably sitting Zeke.
Why?
I think going against the Bills, I think the Bills get up early and the Patriots have to abandon the run game.
Yeah, I mean, Zamir White had 150 or 142 yards last week. The previous start, he also went for 100 yards. He's producing very well. I think Zeke has that touchdown upside I get, but they could quickly go behind, and then all of a sudden he's not even on the team. Joey in the chat says Chiefs have a better run defense, and White won't be a good option. He'll have the volume, but not the production numbers to support it. I think so. Etienne's clearly the start.
Yeah,
I think that Zeke might not have the volume, and I want the volume there. If the Patriots go down, you're not going to be running the ball with Zeke very often. And in fairness, he might be able to eat in the passing game, though.
Yeah.
So it depends on what your roster structure is, but I prefer Zamir White. I'm starting him against Joey, so we'll see how that goes.
See how it goes. Yeah.
Let's do another one.
I'm just sorry. Last thing
Yeah,
there, he did eat both last weeks in targets and receptions, and he got a receiving touchdown last week, which saved him. But 2 weeks ago against the Chiefs, 11 carries, 25 yards. The last week against the Broncos, 12 carries, 27 yards. So he's not they are not. Your only option with Zeke is that he's getting receptions, which has happened, but.
Joey says in our Dynasty Patreon League, he's starting Zeke against me. So perfect. Ooh. We'll see which one does better.
Yeah, we'll see which take wins. Yeah.
All right. This guy, he is stuck at quarterback. We got Justin Fields, Jared Goff, or Baker Mayfield.
Ooh. Let's see who everyone plays. Baker Mayfield against the Saints, Justin Fields against the Falcons, and then what was the
Jared Goff? One? So against
Jared Goff against the Cowboys. Is it crazy that I like Justin Fields?
No, I love Justin Fields. Listen, we'll talk about it more this offseason. I've been of the opinion that he should not quit on Justin Fields. I think we've seen really good flashes. I mean, the floor has been pretty bad at times too. It's the rushing upside, right? The guy had 100 yards rushing last week, and I love that. I mean, in fairness, Baker has been playing pretty well too. I like the upside. I'm going to go Justin Fields. But, I mean, that's tricky. That's super tricky because you start Justin Fields and it goes terrible. You might lose your whole thing. I think the safest this week is Baker.
I agree. That Baker is you know what you'll get from him, and it's probably 20 points.
Yeah. But
depending on your points.
Let's look at it like this. Maybe you're playing a guy who had Joe Flacco and he had Njoku. So maybe you're down. You're looking at the percentages, and they're like 32%. So if you need something big, maybe you have injuries, right? You're missing Hollywood Brown, or you're missing Waddle this week, and you're looking at your team, and you're like, ugh, right? So you need a home run here. I would go Justin Fields then.
Yeah, I think it's Justin Fields, then Baker, if you're like ranking the two of them.
Yeah.
Jared Goff against the Cowboys in Dallas.
No,
I believe the Cowboys will win that. I mean, they're a home team. Like they play well as the home team, and they play terribly as an away team. So,
all right, let's do.
Joey's making some good comments too about Baker. The Bucs can clinch the division this weekend, so Baker will be slinging it. Saints don't have Lattimore, so Mike Evans might even be there. So again, Baker's.
I love Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans. Every year it seems to be something happen.
Someone's getting suspended.
All right.
Yeah.
I have one for you, Jordan.
Yeah, let's do it.
Devontae Parker, Quentin Johnston, or Greg Dortch.
Ooh.
It's a deeper league, obviously. Going up against Joey, what do you think? I also have Zamir White, and I feel like I'm going to play him, but...
Yeah. Is this you?
This is me, yeah.
I want you to lose. What do I tell you to make you lose? I think all of them are low floors, high ceilings. I think
I agree.
That is the situation. I'm probably staying away from Devontae Parker.
Okay.
Just don't trust the Patriots the same. And then... Oh my gosh! That's every receiver that's getting thrown to by a backup quarterback.
Correct. Yes. It's not good. The world is yucky. Kind of like kind of like Quentin Johnston, maybe because he's just the only guy to catch passes there.
Yeah, but that makes me almost like him less. Like Pat Surtain's going to be on him the whole
time. All right.
That's tough.
All right. He's not even going to give me an answer. That's fine. What about Purdy or Fields?
Purdy or Fields?
Yeah.
Oh, Purdy. Purdy against the Commanders.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Commanders' defense is terrible.
I love that. All right, let's go one more here before we wrap it up. Which one would you bench, Jordan? Raheem Mostert, James Conner, Austin Eckler, or Zamir White?
James Conner.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Against who are they going up against again?
The Eagles.
The Eagles. I like Zamir White this week. I really do.
If Zamir White plays, I really like Zamir White against the Colts. Raheem Mostert could score 4 touchdowns. You just never know.
Yep.
You know?
Austin Eckler's been disappointing this year.
Yeah, he has been disappointing, but he's still catching a lot of passes. I guess if it's a PPR. If it's a PPR, I like it.
All right.
Especially now with Josh Palmer and Keenan Allen out.
Someone's got to get the ball. I mean,
poor Easton Stick. Yeah.
Poor Easton Stick.
Gerald Everett. Yeah.
Poor Easton Stick. All right, let me hit you with one more before we wrap.
Yeah.
We do it. All right.
Let's do it.
Pick one for the flex championship week. Oh boy. All right, we got Terry McLaurin, Bijan Robinson, Mr. Overdrafted himself, Jalen Warren, Chris Godwin. He said, right now I'm leaning Chris Godwin, but curious other opinions. Also, and then we'll get to the second part of that. So
you have to pick one.
Pick one.
Terry, Chris Godwin,
Bijan, Jalen Warren. Right now he has
Bijan
Godwin.
or Brian? Is it Brian Robinson?
It is Brian. Sorry. Thank you.
Brian Robinson. That doesn't really change my opinion. Or Chris Godwin. I feel like Godwin. I feel like I also would lean Godwin.
I feel the same way. I would definitely like to lean there. I think we could see a pretty good game out of Baker. We just talked about it. With McLaurin, it's high risk, right? It's pretty high risk stuff. And even Joey just said it's high risk, high reward if Brissett starts. But I think the safest would be Chris Godwin.
Yep.
And then Isaiah Likely or Jake Ferguson.
Ooh, tight ends. I like Isaiah Likely.
I also like it. Look at us just agreeing today.
Wow. Heading into championship week, it's rare, Jake, but we finally are.
Likely's been good. Likely's been really good in replacement of Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson likes his tight ends, and he's fast. That dude's fast for a tight end.
Yeah, I think he's tight end one upside.
Yeah, he's a top 7 tight end probably this week, and somewhere maybe even hitting the top 5. I like the upside over Ferguson. So, All right.
In our rankings that we pray, he is the 7th. We put him at 7, perfect. And then Jake Ferguson right behind him. So it's perfect. To me, it's a coin flip that we give.
Give me the better. I was going to say the better quarterback, but who's Lamar Jackson or Dak this week?
Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
What about you? Do you disagree?
No, I'm going to go Lamar. The upside. I love the rushing upside. I love rushing upside everywhere. All right, so guys, there you have it. There's week 17. It is championship week. This is it. We hope that if you're listening, you'll come back next week, and we keep going until February. And then we take a little break, and then we come back in March. We hope you guys will continue to hang around, and it's a good time. Hopefully, we'll have Adam back in March, and it'll be all good.
We'll be full strength.
We'll be full strength. You can, like I mentioned, like right now we are live on YouTube at youtube.com/the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast. We're going to go forward, be live on Wednesdays or Thursdays, probably Wednesdays. And we also have a Facebook page at the Next Step Fantasy Football Podcast and an Instagram next_step_pod. Jordan, do you have anything else you want to say?
Go win some chips and Happy New Year.
Everybody. Go win some chips. Also, we're going to be throwing out a survey next week at some point that we'd love you guys to fill out. Just kind of help us get some feedback and figure out how we can make the podcast better. So, Jordan, anything else you want to say? Sorry, for a second time.
Well, second time. Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year again. Hey guys, we'll see you next year.
Oh, boo!
All right, guys, take care. Be good.